One. Hello and welcome to Bits and Pieces, the friendliest cricket podcast. This is the podcast that is run by the Aam Aadmi, the podcast that prefers to watch the fun of a Kohli dismissal unfold over Instagram stories than on the ground. The podcast run by Mango people that says Wango to everyone. Conventional wisdom may tell you that it takes two to tango, but this pod will tell you that it takes six to spanko. And whether you're nursing a hangover or ruining the fact that you can't update your passbook because it's a bank holiday, this Unchained Django will hydrate you with the juice of the season. When it comes to eating a mango, nothing succeeds like sucking the seed. And we promise to get to the core of the issue, even if it means staining our shirts in the process. I am Tony, and joining. It's mango season. Even Naveen ul Haq loves mangoes, please. I am Tony, and joining me today. First up, the sound of sanity in a chaotic world. A man who gets caught in the corner at all times because he bears the brunt of being the voice of wisdom. A man who prefers boost hips to loose lips, but on the occasions that we force him on stage, he lets swing like a Robin Hood Uttapa. All the way from Sherwood Forest. Please say hi, Busy.
Hello. Wood forest.
Up next, the scenario calculator who gets many a hater, the lover of meme who supports a failure of a team, the chutney putter who will root for RCB from the gutter, the one and only adorable teddy bear of the pod. Say hi, Samir Mohan.
Hi.
He just relegated him to the gutter, man.
Which brings to the big point that there should be a tier 2 IPL where teams get relegated, but enough talking about English Premier League.
Ooh, you mean the 100. But anyway, also joining us, he can wield the long handle and wax eloquent with it like it were a candle. He can grip the ball of leather and make it dance like a string attached feather. The all-rounder wall mounter of the pod. That's right, he's here only because not enough people give Rahul Dravid the praise he deserves. Say hi, Sandeep G.
Hi everyone. Thanks for the intro.
And up next, a man who reads books and magazines like they're going out of style. The man who puts Ore issues in voracious reader. A man who started running marathons and listening to bits and pieces at the same time and took to both like a Malayali takes to drinking. What a delightful debut he made a few weeks ago. The real running joke is that he's missing a K at the start of his name. Kadi jokes, is that how we say it? Welcome, Addy.
Thanks, Tony. Finally, it goes on the CV. Intro by Tony Sebastian.
And rounding up the panel, the man who goes by the name Prashant DP. DP, a nickname given to him because he would bowl penetrating spells from both ends and not whatever it is that you naughty people are thinking. Chi. The man who spends half his life in ceramics and the other half in Seri, my podcast record panla. The only man with a sexy beard as pure as the driven snow, just like his heart. Writer extraordinaire and an encourager who goes extraordinary. Say hi, Prashant.
Oh my God. Thanks for that, Tony. Great to be here.
Yeah, we're back to full strength this week. And I have to tell you guys that we are getting actual listener feedback, not just from us. And one of this critical piece of feedback has been that since we are, what is it called when a cast is like ensemble cast of like 50 plus people, no one can identify who's speaking. So they have kindly requested us to do what it is that will help you climb the corporate ladder. I don't know if you've been in corporate meetings and like there is always this person who has to take your name every third syllable, right? Tony, this is what we're telling you about, Tony. Like, you just keep going on. I think it's like the primal urge for people is just to hear their name and said out loud, right? Say my name. But we don't do that enough, apparently. So let's address each other by name so people can identify who is speaking, apparently. So this is Tony. And I don't know what we're going to talk about today because
great to see my feedback has reached you.
Finally.
Actual listener feedback, it seems. Build up a pare.
No, this feedback, Sandy ji, has been stuck in the table like one of those teams trying to cross over to 14 points and not happening. But there are lots of interesting stuff to talk about today. Chief editor and absentia Nitin Sundar has told us not to speak about the IPL. So
Let's start with that.
I mean,
On that note, Tony, can I start with a piece of trivia
Go
to
for
kick
it.
it off? Palette
Yes.
cleanser. Okay. So let's just give
This
me
is Addy, by the way.
This is Addy, by the way.
So
Wait,
did
are
you
we
get-
saying it right? Is it Addy or is it Adi or is it something else?
it's actually Adi. I've been called versions like Eddie, Ados, like Hedos here. So yeah, amongst
I like ADOS. Please change your
Like-
display name to ADOS. I like.
So
the
that he
question
doesn't
is-
get DDoSed later. So ADOS.
14, so the question is 14 years before
Hey,
their
sorry, Addy, your voice is going feeble again.
is it better now?
Yeah, if you get close to the mic, I think it's fine.
Yes.
Just do that.
So
Ah,
the
go
question
again,
is 14 years before their unlikely appointment in a common setup, X and Y sat in a hotel bar. X had endured a quote unquote hopeless net session, which Y brought to a premature end by taking him out for a beer and reminding him that he was a decent player.
Hey, one person is Ravi Shastri. It's already like bar based.
Oh,
Bar.
just because of bar. He continues, and this is quoting from his autobiography. X is speaking. He said, most had the psychological smarts to see that more practice wasn't going to fix my anxiety. And he wrote in his autobiography. A couple of days later, X walked out to bat and at a sold out stadium and pretty much did something as a record, which was there for quite some time. Right. So I'll repeat the relevant parts. So this happened in 2008, 14 years before their appointment, improbably in a common setup. And X and Y are at a bar, and X basically says he had a hopeless net session. Y brought him a beer and said, it's fine, you don't need to practice more. And X in his autobiography, which I can give if there are any keen autobiography readers here, I can give the name of the book if that helps. The book was called Declared. And he said, most had the psychological smarts to see that more practice wasn't going to fix my anxiety. And a couple of days later, he blitzed his way into the history books. So who's X and Y?
2008.
God.
Yes.
What?
Are we
And
talking
X and
about
Y are
cricket?
connected now in a through something in common, which is
The
very
key
improbable.
ponting, David Warner.
No, not David Warner. Good guess.
Who is a Dicklet? Harold Dickey word.
No. Unfortunately, the book title is not a pun. Yeah, I like where BC is thinking.
Full
That's why you
disease
gave it to
putting
me.
Putfunda. Hey, Matthew Hayden and Justin Langer by any chance? No.
Yeah, I can make it easy. I prefaced my question by saying it'll be an IPL based.
Correct.
Yeah.
I assume bar Australian Ricky Ponting, David
Is
Warner
it?
there
Is there something to do with Ganguly and Buchanan by any chance?
No.
Something to do with the
You would
KKR
like
guys.
Buchanan by Ganguly a beer.
KKR does have a connection to the answer, though.
Oh.
Counting this
with someone.
This will be Shah Rukh Khan,
Baz.
man. Shah Rukh Khan going to beer and then to the Wankhede Stadium after that.
Okay, Brendan McCullum and
Yes. It's X.
Whoa.
Yes.
158. Okay. And
Who's Y?
who would have bought
Robin
Both are
Uthappa.
connected as part of a common setup, quote unquote setup.
Kane Williams.
Ganguly.
No.
some English player? English.
No, in 2008, where he'll be.
That's a good question. Yeah, point. But
Ganguly,
KKR
no.
Connect was at the time of buying the beer or later?
Later. They're connected, yeah. The connection happened 14 years later.
Oh.
2022 was the connection.
Okay.
Oh,
Now who's
Who
that
was
fellow,
like
man?
the director
Andrew
of
Strauss.
cricket for England or whatever. Yeah.
Andrew Strauss.
Rob Key.
Rob Key. Yeah. No? Okay.
Oh, give
Some
the
English
answer,
high
bro.
up. Stephen Fry. I don't know why.
Hey, too
So,
much chimping
shall
is
I give the-
happening.
Shall I give the answer?
Yes,
Yeah,
Good,
please.
good.
Yeah.
It's Matthew Mott, the current coach of.
Oh.
Because I said
Oh.
improbable because a Kiwi and an English guy and an Australian coaching the English test and white ball teams. That's why
Nice.
I said improbable.
His
appointment.
autobiography is called Declared.
Yeah, declared. McCullum. Yeah.
Declared.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Declared.
I heard,
Yes. Yeah.
I heard declared from that.
Okay.
Okay. In the spirit of trivia, I'm going to read out a sequence of 5 scores that you would have seen recently. I want you to tell me what I'm talking about. Okay. 93, 53, 93, 91, and 86.
My God.
This is
Hey.
all by the same player.
Yashasvi as well.
No.
Oh, 98.
I
Sky.
follow Nitin's instructions.
Catfishing.
So this is nothing to do with IPL.
No, but this is a very Nitin style
Bab-
catfishing exercise.
Babar Azam.
I love how Nitin is the brand ambassador for Cat.
Babar Azam.
No. You're like
Your
way
IPL
off,
trivia.
way off the mark.
Okay.
It's not a man
Sky.
I'm talking about. That helps.
Shafali Verma.
Oh.
It's her 12th board scores.
Yeah.
No.
So, Shefali Verma posted yesterday.
Please,
I
Great
didn't
mark.
realize.
Can
She was
we-
in 12th.
can we
Yeah.
go through 10th boards or 12th board, whatever she
Yeah.
passed? But doing yoga, there is yoga course. What is this?
There is yoga.
How are you feeling, all you overachievers in life, when Shefali Verma has posted her 12th score yesterday? And you had to zoom in to really see this, right? And I still can't figure out what those subjects are.
I can
but,
tell you the subject. I don't know.
Oh, good.
Go for
good.
it.
The caption was 2023 में एक और बहुत special 80 plus smash किया, but इस बार 12th boards में. So she scored 80+% and like everything is in the 90s except for that 53, which whatever, some elective it is. I
That's
can't
Hindi
see.
elective. Hindi elective.
Okay. Well done, Shafali. So, yeah. Addy, any more trivia?
There was one other. It was just a palate cleanser. We'll move out of IPL. I'm sure this is an easy one. Top 3 record holders for catches in slips in Test cricket.
Mark
Dravid.
Waugh?
Mahela, Dravid, and
Whoa, that was
Taylor, I think.
No.
Rahane.
None
No.
of those are correct.
Sorry, first 2 are correct.
First one,
Virat
so
Kohli.
Mahela Dravid is correct.
Yes. The third one threw me off when I read the piece of trivia. I was like, oh yeah, it kind of makes sense.
Asaruddin.
No.
Virat
Kane
Kohli. No, Ian Botham. No.
Hayden.
Mhm.
Ponting.
Ponting
Now
is
tell
slips.
all-
No way. Yeah.
Full fishing expedition happening.
Mark Waugh was 150 or 170 or something. He was not 200.
And what? Oh,
Okay.
200 is the
Oh,
cutoff.
200 is
Yeah.
the
My God.
You guys kick yourself when you realize the answer.
Really?
Sachin Tendulkar.
No way.
Oh, I think this is Callis.
Yes, Callis.
Oh.
Oh.
Good
This is
one.
the problem.
He was in
He
slips.
kind of
He was
always-
bowling from the other end and he was in slips. Wow.
Yeah. I think 201. Yeah, 210 was
Oh.
Dravid. 201 is I think Jackalis.
Just
We don't think of South Africa in terms of
Exactly,
records.
and Jackalis is always kind of
Slips
is
under the
mostly
radar.
outside of most
Yeah.
debates on the greatest,
Yeah.
all of that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
Clearly, Tony's asked me for one more trivia question. Looks like not a big week in the IPL.
You have one more.
No, I don't have one more. I just had an anecdote on Sachin, which we can come to later.
Okay.
We have 10
I will
minutes
ask
left.
one now, but 1 second. I just need a second.
Tony is framing the question. So
Yeah,
as not
exactly.
to reveal.
Apparently, on the test catches, I think the next in line are miles off. I think Joe Root is at 156 And I think Steve Smith is 170.
Wow.
So a long way away from beating Dravid's record for now.
What's the highest? 210.
210. Dravid is 210. Yeah.
And I think of those two guys, I think Mahela's distinction is I think he has a maximum number of catches of one bowler, which is
Murli.
Murli.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Who'll be a close second in terms of bowler fielder combinations?
Kumble
Mitra-
and Dravid, no? Kumble and Dravid
I
or
think it'll be Warm Agra, no? Or
Warren
Warren.
Mitra?
Warm Agra or Warm Warren.
No. Keep a fielder and a fielder combination like Lily Marsh.
Dravid and Kumble, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Dravid and Kumble or Mark
Or
and
Harbhajan.
Warren.
Or Ravichandran
Ash-
Ashwin and Ravichandran.
Ashwin would say I am both of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question that I wanted to ask is, this is the same player's scores in the IPL before 25th April 2023 and after. Before 25th April, he scored 209 runs in 5 innings, and after he scored 57 runs in 3 innings. Who am I talking about?
Ajinkya Rahane.
Okay,
no?
that's too easy. Immediate selection has happened, and he's like, fucked up.
My job is done.
I'm not attending any more classes. You please do what you want to. Like, the only reason I'm here.
Said, he's scoring gritty 19 runs to get ready for England.
Only saved by the amazing strike rate of one and only MS Dhoni. Okay, now let's get into it. Saidiji, you had a bunch of topics that you wanted to talk about.
Oh my God. Aren't we starting with IPL first?
Whatever. Like, anyway, it's alright.
Let's start with IPL, and I would request Samir to start because he's very excited. He still is in the hopes that RCB will qualify.
We should do this in the other order because BC, you might not know, is like a real SRH fan. I mean, you might know if you're seeing the screen because he's also wearing orange. The one and only time he decided to like venture into a sort of friendly wager, as it were, was yesterday. And he actually picked SRH to win. I mean, I went along with him. But yeah.
But do you know that the only 2 times that SRH has won has been against RCB in the final?
Oh, what? No, they beat RR.
You're
saying like
as Deccan Chargers.
Yeah.
They won the IPL
Hyderabad,
as Deccan Chargers, right? That was
in South Africa. That.
Yeah. So BC, I'm sure you watched the match keenly yesterday. What I want you to do is tell us who you did. Okay. Anyone who saw the match, Brian Lara's facial expressions as the best form of IPL commentary. And whatever it is that SRH was doing against LSG yesterday. Can someone explain what is going on?
I don't know. I think at that point before Abhishek Sharma turned up to bowl that over, SRH needed LSG needed 69 from 5 overs or something. Yeah. And then Abhishek Sharma turns up. Gets Stoinis in the over, but he's traveled the journey. I think before the second last or the last 6 which Pooran hit, there was a bit of a conference between Markram, Abhishek Sharma and one other guy, and I think some instruction was also relayed. Brian Lara was sitting. Next ball, Abhishek Sharma turns up, bowls a half tracker at the slot, and Pooran promptly puts it into cow corner. The replays pan to Brian Lara, and he's like, I mean, I could make out the words of his lips. This is how you don't bowl. He was saying that.
No, it's not even this is how you don't bowl. Who the fuck made this guy bowl this over? Right? Sharma is an uncapped player who's in the side primarily for his batting. I mean, not that Mayank Markante was going great shape, but I think Glenn Phillips bowled 2 overs for 10 runs or whatever. Anyway, like there was like a literal plethora of options to pick from, and he went with Abhishek Sharma.
Yeah, and I think LSG probably knew that they had Pooran in the bank. That's why they just went for it, right? Like, I mean, And then they
No,
wonder
I don't
what.
think so. See, like basically, we've reached that point of the IPL where there are a bunch of boring matches which no one cares about. Two of them played out yesterday, and a bunch of consequential matches which some fans care about. Like Samir Mohan and me are waiting eagerly for 3:30 to know which of our
One
teams is
second.
going
Sorry,
to knock out.
I'll
Only
have to
one team.
interject and reject that, because who says fans in SRH don't care? One second.
They threw
I'm
nuts and
sorry.
bolts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That no ball led to full spanner and all flying into the ground. Do not say that nobody cares. This is not a
Throwing a
representative.
literal
I mean-
spanner into the works.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it was okay for Praveen Amre to run onto the field, but this is some other level for no ball.
No, but
And he
no, but it
clearly
was.
looking like someone who has given
Yeah.
up on the IPL altogether.
But I think it was best summarized on the Insider's feed yesterday in JioCinema when Graham Swan keeps telling that he's some level 4 umpire or something, that he has taken a level 4 course, right? And then the ball tracker comes. The ball is going on top of the stumps and the umpire's voice is heard saying that the ball is dipping. This is a fair delivery. And Graham Swan
No,
goes,
he's crouching.
no.
Ball is
He's
dipping.
crouching.
This is a fair delivery.
Yeah.
And then later, there is a wide reviewed by SRH, I think about like immediately.
2 balls later.
Yeah.
2 balls later.
And he's like, the batsman is jumping, it is going about his head, so it is a fair delivery.
It's
I'm
a
like,
fair
bro,
delivery.
like, what the hell? Like, what are you
And then
smoking?
after this, Swan is like, I just want to know what substance is being passed around in the on the Insider's comms. And like that Insider's comms yesterday was wilding, right? Like, and he's like, atrocious decision. I don't know, but
The only thing that I wanted to say was like there are a spate of boring matches. Right? Yesterday, it didn't look like either LSG or SRH were very keen on winning. Like they were like basically, if KL Rahul were a match, if KL Rahul's personality were a match, that's how interesting it was. It reminded me of the time when like in Sacred Heart unit in where I stay. In Palarivattam, we had a carom tournament, and it's the women's tournament. Okay, like no objection, like no offense meant to women, but basically, like the finals was happening between Lily Kattikaran and Julie Kattikaran, and they were both struggling to put in the red coin, right? And because we had the carom table in our house, this match has gone on for 2 hours. And finally, my dad goes out for a meeting. He comes back. The match is still going on, and he's like, "Oh, look, crow!" And he picks up the red and he throws it. And his match is over now. That was the level of enthusiasm with which LSG and SRH were playing this match.
Yeah, but not. I mean, not to take any credit away from SRH, they were in it till that 31-run horror happened, right? Like they were throwing
They
their
were
bodies.
winning, man. Like anyway,
They were winning it.
Yeah.
And even Glenn Phillips was throwing his body even when it was 4 from 6, right? It was just
Amazing.
crazy. It was just amazing. But yeah, I mean, they remain to be orange fire idiots this season, right? If not, I mean, that upper chamber, our friend Cart who said orange fire idiots, it just adds up together. I mean,
Yeah. Their
no
only
point.
purpose in this season was to derail RR's sort of sure shot qualification. Now,
There we go.
They-
I was waiting for that.
horrible. Waste of space.
And I think Lara has taken a leaf out of the other legendary left-hander who's in the coaching staff, Gautam Gambhir. Only thing left for him is to invade the field.
Hemang Badani.
Oh.
Hemang Badani, yeah.
Hemang Badani is also there.
Yeah, so let's discuss about the fastest 50 that Yashasvi Jaiswal scored. There was one record that KL Rahul had, and that too has been taken up. That too has been taken away recently, and I thought that day KKR bowlers had no clue where to bowl to him, and he played some marvelous shots. But
Sandy
saw
ji,
that
sorry. Did
Yeah,
KL
yeah.
Rahul have was he the first Indian to have 100 in all 3 formats? I'm sure that's record he still holds, right? Obviously, he's the first,
Yeah.
so that record
Yeah,
still
yeah.
holds, obviously.
Yeah, I was talking about the fastest 50 in IPL. That record he held
That
before.
Nicholas Puran equaled, no, this season only.
Yeah.
Against RCB, he
Be-
hit 14, right? So
before he started.
No, which is beaten now by Jaiswal, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That
No,
KL
but
Rahul,
this,
I mean, Indian
I mean,
head.
for all of Jaiswal's brilliance, this includes a no run, 4 overthrow in that first 49 runs. Right? Like he like defended the
Yeah.
ball like these idiots just throw the ball to the
Nitish Rana just throws.
little bit
Gurbaz
of
is not backing up. It just
yeah.
goes to the ball.
Gurbas ball and all has been invoked by Yashasvi as well. But anyway,
No, but but I actually have a question for Tony, who's like the biggest RR fan I know.
Thank you.
So I it if you look at the scores this year, right? The average score in the IPL is now like 179 or something when I last checked.
Yeah.
Right, which is like 10 runs more than any other IPL before. So it is I think reasonable to say that this is a significant jump. A 10-run difference in a 20-over game is significant.
Yeah.
So it is,
it's
not it's not unreasonable to say that this has been a faster scoring IPL than other IPLs. Okay.
Yeah.
What I found interesting was that if your average score is 180, that means your average strike rate is 150, right?
Yeah.
Right. Now,
unless you're Dhoni, then it's 250.
Unless you're Dhoni.
Tala.
But yeah, my point is that this year, Butler has actually been striking at I think 140 something, 142 or something. It's probably the only time we've seen him strike at lower than the. I mean, he's had a good tournament. He's batted well.
Yeah.
But would you say that that's because of Jaiswal's form? It's allowed him to slow down, or you just generally think that people have bowled better to him?
No, so there's been two distinct phases to the IPL, right? And like BNP Jinx works even with off BNP and all, which is that on 27th April, right? I distinctly remember KP was saying 200 is the new 180, right?
Right.
At that point in time, on 27th April, 200 plus had been chased only 2 out of 11 times, right? So like if 11 teams scored 200 plus, only 2 times it was chased. Actually, if you put the cutoff at 190 at that point, only 2 out of 17 chases had been successful, right? And I think that was a time when Butler was in form. Then he lost it for a while. Then he got run out by Samson and Jaiswal, and in between he scored some 90 or something. So I mean, I think there's been like two distinct phases of the IPL. The first start actually like 180 was par. Now like it's like no score is safe, and there was some analysis. I think Sandy ji can speak to this about the ball or the pitches drying out or whatever it is. It's just like basically it is dependent on when your form kicks in, right? Like Rahane has definitely dropped off the radar after the initial burst. Butler, I don't know, dude. He's got 2 runouts, and like one of the striking things that Sanju Samson said, I know like not enough people will like agree with this or give him credit for his captaincy, but one of the things he said in the post match after Jaiswal scored that 100 was at mid match they interviewed this guy Chahal, right? And he's like, this is like a quarter final for us, right? And in the end they interviewed Samson, and Harsha Bogle is asking Sanju Samson, listen, Chahal told me that this is like the quarter final for you. And Sanju's like, he really said that? It's actually like the first of 3 quarterfinals for us, because that's where his tournament starts, right? And he was basically saying that if a legend like Joss Butler is willing to get run out for a noob like Yashasvi Jaiswal, you know what this dressing room is about, right? And he really displayed that with like getting to 48, but also like defending that what would have been a wide from Suyash to make sure that Yashasvi had a chance at 100, right? So, I mean, I think RR is one team which doesn't like chase milestones. Like Yashasvi could have like easily taken 1 or 2 runs and then gone for 100 again at with balls remaining, but he's like, I don't care about milestones. So it's a different thing. So two parts to this. One is to say that there's been two distinct parts of the season. The initial part, 180 was a good score. Now it is not anymore. Even 215 is not safe. And then RR is I think like the proper IPL team where like everyone's just like going for it all through.
Much of
But
it is
Sandy
driven
ji,
by this impact player because it's almost a
yeah,
like for like. You get a batsman who can pretty much play the first day fully when the team is batting, and similarly while chasing. So effectively, you're
yeah,
getting one full batsman and one full bowler. I'm not sure if again correlation should not be confused with causation, but I'm not
yeah.
sure if the impact player is driving a bit of
And
averages scores being much higher
No,
than
but
usual.
again, like the counter to that being like Punjab scored 167 yesterday with 100, and like you would assume that Delhi would have chased it easily. They ended up with 136, right? And like like low scores have been defended as well, right? Like Chennai scored 167, and Delhi again ended up with 140. So yeah, but in general, like the impact sub seems to have made a plus 20 difference possibly.
yeah, and
Just
RCB defended 120 against LSG on that
Nobody
torrid
fucking
pitch,
cares.
right? Lowest defense if you're talking about, but yeah.
Yeah.
I
Also
don't
on the
know if you
topic of
guys.
impact,
Sorry. Yeah, go
also
for
on
it.
the topic of impact sub, I think you can do everything. It will be like one bowler for one batsman, whatever. But unless you are SRH, wherein in yesterday's game probably there was an impact sub mismatch, and then they brought on another batsman for a batsman. I think they got Vivrant Sharma for Anmol Preet for the second innings, right? So there was that gaffe that happened yesterday, and apparently the thing on the insiders com was they've messed up the team sheets. So yeah.
Has Harsha Bhogle made a comment this season on how names like Suyash, Anmol Preet is replacing India? Has he made that comment?
If not, he definitely would have, right? But I was hoping either Prashant or Sandy ji would pick up on this, which is that there's been like some reference by Harsha Bhogle about a two-piece ball or something. And like one of like the rare things that I've picked up from quizzing over the very short time that I've spent in quizzing on campus is that there is the like smallest swimsuit that existed was called the Atom, right? And basically, then I'm guessing the United States chose this atoll, like small island in the Pacific Ocean, where they managed to do,
Testing.
splitting the atom, right? Like nuclear bomb or whatever. And that atoll is called Bikini.
Bikini at all.
So Bikini became shorter than an atom. That's where we ended up with Bikini, right? But Sandy ji, Prashant, help me out here. Harsha mentioned something about two-piece. I didn't read too much into it. But what was he saying? Like, what is it about the ball or the pitch or something that has caused a difference?
No, I think the point he was trying to make was that he wanted a little more balance between bat and ball, or he wanted to see bowlers being armed with more. Let me just pull up. This is something he said on comms
Twitter.
or on Twitter.
Twitter. Yeah.
Twitter.
Yeah.
Just
So
as an aside,
he's basically So he was basically saying that the ball must swing or grip and the boundary must be beyond 70 meters for it to remain a fair contest. Otherwise, bowlers can get irrelevant. That's his point.
Mm.
It's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
But I mean, this idea that there must be equality between bat and ball itself. I mean, why would you not have this as a pure hitting contest? I mean that's another question, of course. But I mean the balance is definitely skewed. And to answer Addy's point, I mean the impact sub works both ways. It makes your batting more effective. It should also make your bowling more effective. So I'm not sure if that's really can explain the extra 10 runs or whatever. I think that
for me the impact sub is a huge victory. GT tried to sub KS Bharat on for Buddhiman Saha. They said, no, you can't do all that. So Saha came on with his pants reversed. Great fun.
No, but I think in that match they had already subbed Joseph, and then they said that Saha is injured, so let's bring in KS Bharat, which the umpires didn't allow.
Yeah, I think the stat that would best exemplify my claim that there's been like two distinct parts of the season is how Rashid Khan started off with almost like people seeing him off versus how now he's picking up like 4 wickets and also 70
thought
runs.
Rahane before World Cup pick.
No, Rahane is irrelevant to it. But like Rashid Khan,
WTC.
basically, I think
Yeah.
someone as astute as Lara, I think probably when he was put into a corner, uh, had to say that why he let him go from SRH was because he's like no longer a dangerous bowler because batters used to see him off, right? And they just play out his 4 overs for like whatever runs and hit off the others. But it hasn't been the case in the second half of this IPL because like even 200 scores are not safe. So you have to go after everyone. And ever since that has happened, Rashid Khan started picking up 2, 3, 4 wickets in every match.
He's now purple cap holder, by the way.
Oh, really?
Rashid. Yeah, he's 22.
Wait,
Nice.
did you see that moment when I think it was Shami who had the purple cap and Mohit Sharma was supposed to give it to him, and Gavaskar was like, "Shami, please give the purple cap to Mohit now." And Mohit was like, "Thank you, sir, but like I'm not purple cap holder. Shami is, so let me give it to him."
Yeah,
But you're saying Rashid Khan's purple cap holder now,
Yeah,
and
it's
also
very much
79 not out.
Yeah, it's very much floating in the GT bowling reserves at this point.
But the other interesting thing is if you look at all the top wicket takers this time, they've all been like fast bowlers or wrist spinners. I think the only finger spinners that feature anywhere on that list are Ashwin and Jadeja, who are like the best finger spinners in the world, you could say. There was this time when there was so many left arm spinners everywhere, but I think they're not taking wickets. They may be bowling restrictively. Like I think Santner has bowled pretty well for Chennai the few times he's played. But I think now it's
this was the PGK dedication section of the episode 71.
Tony, when you spoke about
but enough about Jogi Index.
Tony, when you spoke about Harsha Bhogle and a two-piece, and you spoke about that Bikini Atoll funda from your quizzing days. I was reminded of a quizzing team which had 3 bald men in the team, and their quizzing team name was Hirsute Pursuits. And I was going to say, Harsha Bhogle speaking about a two-piece 15 years ago would have meant something different before he got
so I mean,
there's a movie to be made here called Hirsute of Happiness, but anyway.
No, but for the record, I don't think he mentioned anything about a two-piece ball. I think he was talking about making the ground bigger.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
And on impact sub, do you reckon it's time for us to actively consider it for Test cricket? Not doing a 1:1, but example, Zahir Khan 2011 Lords 5th over hobbles off, and you pretty much lost a bowler for the entire Test match. Right?
Yeah. No, my personal take is that impact sub is not relevant, but all teams should be allowed to announce their team after the toss.
Yeah.
Like no impact subs, but like allow the 11 to be decided after the toss. So
I want to bring in one more perspective on this. I think impact sub will get you a lot more specialized players into the Test arena itself, like folks who can't necessarily last the 5 days. For example, take Jofra Archer, and I know there is a lot that we need to speak about Jofra Archer as well. He would be hands-on included in any Test side, bowl his quota of overs, and then be sub. And he could probably just play one inning itself and just go flat out 155 throughout and knock everyone's head off and then be sub.
Even
that's the
let's
impact
say,
that you want.
Yeah, even let's say bring in Harry Brook, let him score 100 of 70 and then sub him out for a bowler.
Hey,
no, but the point being like cricket has moved in the exact opposite direction, right? Where we used to have like runners for like batters and all of that, and then you're saying like no, like even that is not allowed. So I think like the progressive way to do it is to say that no impact subs, but also let's make it fairer. On that note, right? I'm sure none of you watched Sanju Samson post game, so I can ask you this question. Sanju Samson played 17 IPL matches last season as the captain. Can you guess how many tosses he won out of 17?
6.
Bissy says 0. Prashant says 6. Hey, just because I'm asking the question, you're like 0 and like, I mean, like if you were to guess,
he
like,
won nearly all the tosses.
No, he won 3 out of 17 last year. And this time, Harsha Bhogle asked him at the toss because this is his 8th consecutive toss victory, right? And he's like, and he brought it up saying, listen, I lost 14 out of the last 17 last time. So, no, my point being like the toss is too much of a factor here. Like, depending on the time of the year and where it's played, etc., toss makes a huge difference. So, I feel like
Bat
all
flip.
teams should be announced after the toss at least because there's no other
That's
way
a
to
that's a very
Yeah.
welcome addition. The team announcement after the toss makes a huge difference in creating an even playing field. Unless you're Hardik Pandya, who still is like, hey, Ashish karna kya hai? Bata na please. मेरे को."
or MS Dhoni was like same level. Same 11 for one full season. Yeah.
Or your SRH who mix up team sheets. Yeah.
But we were talking about England players just a while ago, and there has been a lot of talks on how England players are getting contracts from
Specifically
IPL
Jofra
teams.
Archer.
One
Specifically
England player.
Jofra.
But there have been I mean, in the news there have been 3 or 4
No,
players.
but let's give context, right? Sandy ji, what are you talking about? What is the actual news about?
So the news is that some of the England players have been offered long time contracts for playing across the globe T20 leagues, and most of these contracts are by the IPL team owners because they are in, let's say, Abu Dhabi Premier League, South Africa Premier T20 League, etc. So there has been a lot of talks on how they might not be playing for their nation so much as they might be playing for the leagues if they take up these contracts, and it will make a huge difference. I mean, in fact, if you look at one of the articles that I was reading, even Brendan McCullum said that it will be naive of us to think that they won't accept these contracts because we can't match financially. The national contracts won't be able to match them financially. So it will make a huge difference, and I think it will be easy for Brendan McCullum because he will directly pick T20 good players into the test team. But that's what baseball is. But it will change the entire scenario if that happens.
I think Jofra Archer has offered 10 CR by Mumbai Indians for his contract, right?
Yeah,
so 10 CR he's been offered, and this is almost on the heels of Rob Key giving full interview saying that we are to have a great working relationship as the ECB with the Mumbai Indians. They are consulting us on every day on what Jofra Archer eats, sleeps, drinks, how his left elbow is behaving with workload. All that is being done. They have been fantastic. He's coming back early. And immediately after that, Mumbai is like, go screw yourself. We're paying him for the rest of his life. And you need to take permission from Motabhai to basically take him for any test match for ECB.
So, no. No, but I think McCullum, the statement he made is actually a pretty mature response. You're saying you can't really come in the way of this, right? I mean, at the end of the day, they're professionals who got a short earning span. They can play for maybe 10, 15 years if they have a great career. And so obviously they're going to try and maximize. What they earn.
Yeah.
And that's actually what all of us do. I mean, it's not like we go to the employer who pays us the most for our skills and our qualifications.
Very famously, we record bits and pieces every week because we're being paid millions of dollars. we are all about the money here.
And not been caned into shape by somebody in Australia.
Yeah.
This intro sorted. But Prashant, taking your point forward, I think McCullum actually hints at saying that we will have to accommodate all these leagues in our schedule. He actually goes and says that.
And taking that on, basically for New Zealand, Trent Bolt has said that he should be playing the World Cup in New Zealand. Guys have also said that, Trent Bolt should be playing the World Cup. Although he's opted out of a central contract, right? I think he's like probably the first big sort of international star to do that. So, we'll see him in the World Cup.
On Jofra Archer, would that effectively mean that you would see lesser of these meaningless bilateral series? Because effectively boards are like, what's the point of having these series? Because every time we have to go get an NOC for Jofra Archer, we might as well have meaningful contests because then I'm assuming everybody is being reasonable and says, okay, Mumbai says, yeah, we'll allow him to play the, this series because it's a qualifier for WTC or something to that effect. And you get rid of a lot of meaningless bilateral series which don't add much value in terms of actual context, right? And we've seen that with the number of games India plays outside of the WTC, that many of them are just done to fulfill contractual obligations, given that the Indian team is the biggest circus in town. But at the cost of a player's, long-term well-being and all of that.
Addy, you're right. Sorry, 1 second. I just want to interject here because I think the whole system has sort of painted itself into a corner with this. Because you're saying that on the one hand, bilaterals will become meaningless, but you create a structure around World Cup qualification called the Super League.
So which has died.
Which has died, by the way.
It's done. There's no more again.
It's done to death.
One-time thing for Nitin to remember. Okay, sorry, I take that back. Sorry, Sandy,
but
go for it.
Addy, I think, Addy, it might happen the other way also. Like tournaments like Asia Cup, you will require all the players to be present, and it may happen that a lot of players are out
to
for
happen
paying.
in a neutral country.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or India.
So a lot of teams might not have their players because they must be playing some league. So bilateral might be easier to organize. I mean, even that can happen. We don't know. And I think a good segue into what happened.
No, once again,
Pakistan.
but like
Sorry.
basically the spectrum lies between you're basically talking about franchise football or soccer,
correct.
Where it's like international matches once in 4 years or CONCACAF or like whatever Africa Cup or whatever, right? And everything else is club based. And on the other side, what Kaustubh mentioned, and I'm gonna throw it back to BC now, is like NBA like having meaningless some 82 long season to finally do the playoffs, right? So I mean, those are two, like our mind readily goes to EPL, but like NBA also practically is like contextless for the longest period of time, right?
It doesn't turn into
add
context.
to that the complexity that cricket has 3 distinct formats. It's like 3 distinct sports. So I don't know.
No, NBA's format itself is long drawn because there are so many teams. You just can't help it.
Yeah.
They'll keep playing each other. It's a circus, and then suddenly everyone will wake up.
64 teams, is it? How many teams?
So West Conference, East Conference, some Hazar teams are there.
Yeah.
So
they keep basically saying, bring back Kochi Tuskers. Make the IPL.
Come on. Indie Commandos.
So yeah, I don't think NBA is a fair comparison. I think the way franchise cricket is evolving, it's going to be the mainstay. Everything else has to be structured around it. And how that people in England are already up in arms. I'm seeing over here, there's this local club that I frequent because I have nothing better to do on weekends. People are already crying, oh, Jofra Archer, Deshdrohi, traitor and all. He came from West Indies. We gave him livelihood, training, and we made his life better. Now, just because Mumbai Indians are giving him money, he will go there. Not fair, and all that. But that is exactly what is going to happen.
But Prashant, your take on this, like franchise cricket, should be limited to T20 cricket and then everything else is international with or without context, or like ODI is just die and like it's just test cricket and franchise T20?
I mean, I'm not sure how that's going to play out because I don't know how much appetite you will have for that glut of T20. If you actually remove all other cricket, whether there will be viewer fatigue, whether you after a point, whether you even know who is playing for whom anymore. You see somebody play for a team in the IPL and then they go and play for some other team in South Africa and then some other team elsewhere. You actually lose track of who's playing for whom. So there is a possibility that the extremity is actually counterproductive in the sense that it leads to confusion and viewer fatigue.
Yeah.
But actually, that's maybe a good point to talk about the ICC
No, on that
revenues
viewer
too.
fatigue bit, right? Let me just say, like,
Yeah.
unabashedly, that 2 months when IPL happens is the happiest time of my life in the year, right?
Okay.
Like, I mean, since I started playing fantasy league, but like generally, like you're like you don't have to worry about anything else. Okay, like what do you do? Okay, there's a match, like you can like riff off on it. There's enough content created around it. There's like good social media happening. So I mean,
Nags.
I don't know if it's
And
like
what we thought
if
was
it
supposed
happens
to
a
be a
year
boring
round,
day.
I'd probably
And-
be sorry.
And
What was
just
supposed to
after
be a boring day
IPL,
yesterday, even a
Yeah.
boring game yesterday wasn't so boring, mind you.
Yeah,
There were nuts and bolts flying
There were
across the ground.
bits and pieces of it.
this is
Yeah.
nonsense.
Bits and
Tony,
Now on
just
to your
one-
segue, Prashant and Sandy.
sorry, one final point, Tony, on this. Like, multiple leagues and Prashant's point of view of fatigue. Like Chris Anderson, the guy who started Wired magazine, had this book called The Long Tail, where he basically said, this internet is this wonderful thing where, you have this long tail where you can pretty much have music, movies, books catering to any possible niche, and you'll have someone out there who's willing to actually pay for it, watch it, appreciate it, right? So similarly for T20 leagues, I'm sure there'll be a micro niche who would want to watch everything in the SA20 or the IPL or the BBL, etc. And if the numbers stack up, maybe it will continue to happen. And even Jared Kimber said, the ideal case for an IPL is when you don't shy away from having 3 matches concurrently at the same time, because at some point you might have, say, 60 teams, and there'll be a micro niche for watching, Dindigul Dragons versus, say, College Patriots, right? and there'll be some team which will want to watch the traditional Mumbai versus Chennai. Yeah.
Since we were
that's my final
talking
point.
about fatigue, I think important point. Yesterday, I think BBL announced that they would reduce the league games from 56 to 40 or 42.
40,
something
44,
like that.
and the women's remains at
44.
56. So surprisingly, the men's is 44, the women's
Yeah.
is 56. And the main thing was basically just as background for our million listeners of this podcast. So
who are paying us
in
millions of dollars, which is why we do
Yeah.
this. Let's be clear.
human lives. So in Australia, there are two people or two broadcasters for the cricket every summer. So there's Fox, which is pay-per-view or similar to Hotstar in India, and then you have Channel 7, which is a free-to-air broadcaster. So Channel 7 basically took Cricket Australia to court a couple of seasons ago, saying we paid you $7 billion for showing all the cricket in summer, and the quality of cricket is very poor. You don't get any marquee players for the Big Bash. We struggle to get advertisers because viewership is dropping, etc. And the court case went on for 7-8 months. They finally dropped proceedings, and people are saying that the reason why they've gone back to 44 is two reasons. One is a shorter window during the Christmas and school holidays period. You can get the game done, you'll get good viewership, plus you'll be able to pay marquee players a good amount for a shorter season. And secondly, 2017-18 was when they had their bumper year, and what worked for them then was 44 games. So that's been the general thinking around Cricket Australia going back to 44 games versus 56. But on the flip side, they've actually stuck to the guns and said, the women's BBL will keep it as 56 because we'd like to have a longer exposure period for it before the men's BBL starts.
I think that it's also interesting because that suggests that you could have a different fan base that watches the women's game as opposed to the men's game. And because you don't see as much women's cricket otherwise, you want to see as much of it as possible, which is why it possibly makes sense to keep the women's BBL
Plus,
too.
the good thing is the women's BBL, Prashant, only towards the playoffs is when they actually start playing in the Adelaide Ovals and the MCGs. Most of the group stages actually happen in smaller grounds. Like in Melbourne, they have this ground called the Junction Oval, which is where the Victorian state team usually practices. So most of the women's game in Victoria happens there. Similarly, they have a lot of games in Geelong, which is like a tier 2 city, 3 hours west of Melbourne. And again, in Queensland, they have games in Gold Coast, in the Carrera Stadium, where I think India played Australia for a T20 series a couple of years with women's. So that's what they're doing to kind of keep the interest going by bringing it to smaller towns. And there's a fair level of interest for the women's Big Bash because, the women's team in Australia has obviously been numero uno for very long. So there's actually a good fan following for the women's BBL.
Well, what stadium did you say?
For Gold Coast?
Yeah.
Carrera, Carrera.
Is that where India gave Australia Carrera Prahar?
Yes, that was the one where
Karara Jawab.
Carrera Jawab, yeah, Carrera Jawab. Sorry, but I mean, like, forget the women's game, right? I mean, which is probably an entirely different sport in itself because like different sort of personalities are playing. I watch IPL. I don't watch any of the other T20 leagues, dude. Like, I assume like there would probably be a one max 2% overlap between people who watch IPL and who watch like the SA T20 league, although like it's owned by SRH and MI and whoever else, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think all of these can exist independently, but when BBL has gone from 56 to 44 games, IPL has gone from 56 to 70, right? So
and counting.
Yeah.
And counting, yeah.
No one's mentioning the
I think,
Vitality
like,
Blast. I am very, very disappointed.
Meanwhile, I guess the ECB has said that the 100 will probably turn into a T20 format anyway, right? But
that's
like,
hilarious.
yeah, missing you as our England correspondent. Do you want to
I
share?
have no idea.
We need those extra 20 balls.
I have no idea what they're up to. It's a lot of, so basically they have this 4-month window where they have to do everything that is related to outdoor sports. So they throw the kitchen sink at it. Everything is happening. I'm telling you, you think everyone's preparing for swinging conditions at the Oval. It'll be some underprepared dry ass pitch because every weekend there is a game happening, right? There is a T20 game. There's a women's
aap yahan
you see ball patches everywhere. There is what London Derby happening right now. Middlesex versus Surrey going on at the Oval. I'm thinking,
racing?
No, not yet. Oh, just on a side note, Cheteshwar Pujara hasn't scored 100 in his latest innings in the county championship. He just scored 70.
But Steve Smith has been given out LBW again.
No, but he got out for 7, so it's all good. We are all sorted.
But just because we are on county, one question: who recently scored 86 and took 4 wickets, but has not been chosen for an important final?
Really? Oh wow! I was going to say Marnus, but then I'm sure
he did that in the county game, but
Cameron Bancroft.
No.
Indian, no?
But Bancroft doesn't bowl, right?
No, I thought for some reason he decided to roll his arm over. It's a trick question.
Did Nisa suddenly find
He took 4 wickets and then his team was like 120 for 6 and then he scored 86 of equivalent to a strike rate of KL Rahul in IPL.
No, and also he's been swinging the ball like crazy. I mean, I saw a few clips of Nisa bowling in a few county games. He's bowling banana in swing. It's insane.
Sandy G, hot off the press, last night it was announced that Michael Nisa will join the Aussie squad. So I don't know what that means.
That means he is the Ruturaj Gaikwad of Australia team. Ruturaj Gaikwad has also joined our squad as backup. Yeah,
stop. Hey, you have 1 minute left. Don't tell important stuff. Just blow up otherwise. Okay,
correct.
How much people made fun of Sachin Tendulkar on that video, man?
He put out a statement, right?
That's Which video?
Yeah. Batka grip.
You haven't seen that? So
no,
basically he's explaining.
Wait. Let's do this. Let's do it. Let's make it a part
record.
Record it. Okay.
Okay. Start with Sam Moore's mimicry.
ये वीडियो बैट का ग्रिप निकाल के ना गान डालेगा नहीं. So I think it was I remember seeing this. It was a 6-7-year-old video. Okay, it's I think one of those comedy creators who basically brought a troll for when DJ Bravo sang Champion. Okay. And then there is an animation where an animated Sachin comes, and then he hears the song and he says, "Yeah, itna kharab hai." And then he says, "Hey, media." इतना खराब गाना गाए, अगली बार गाया ना तो बैट का ग्रिप निकाल के गाँव में डालेगा or something he says was picked up. Okay,
Oh,
so
God.
somehow the audio got leaked. Okay, and then picked up, and then it was like a rage over Instagram reels, right? Like I think there was a thing where is all sorts of images. Okay, so in terms of, let's say, when Sachin Tendulkar has to say a word of caution to say Shubman Gill or Arjun Tendulkar or whatever, right? And then everywhere this audio was there. And recently Tendulkar came out with a statement saying people are impersonating my brand name and selling subpar stuff or something. Whilst the intended audience was different, the Streisand effect was such that everyone under the tweet was commenting bad ka grip निकल गया, bad का grip खो गया क्या. So it is again back to that time when anything and everything that is related to Sachin Tendulkar just has horrible levels of trolling and everything removed, right? Like I'm trying to find that tweet.
But I think in that bat ka grip wala video also where he's cleaning the grip, people have trolled him for keeping the tap on for too long. Like people find various reasons. He's showing how to clean a grip with soap and water, and people have trolled him for keeping the tap on for too long.
Oh, wow. Okay. Speaking of keeping the tap on for too long, I think is this a good time to discuss about who is going to take away all the water from the ICC?
Nice.
Yeah, let's wrap up in 10 minutes. So, yeah, go.
Yeah, I just want to share my screen 1 second. A host disabled participant screen sharing.
No, so actually, the crazy thing about that, is that if you look at the money that's being spoken about, right? They're saying that the BCCI will now get 230 million US dollars per year, which roughly translates to, I think, 1,900 crores or something like that. The BCCI gets something like 4,000 or 4,500 crores or something from the broadcast rights of the IPL alone. Right. And last year, I think there are, conservative estimates say that they had a surplus running into thousands of crores, like 4,000 crores or something like that last year. So they're actually making more money than they know what to do with. Okay, and they don't pay taxes. So it's bonkers. I mean, it's like you have this extreme French Revolution kind of system where you've got one person who's making so much money they don't know what to do with, and then you've got like starving peasants elsewhere. And this guy is like, no, I'm only bringing in all the money, therefore I should get this money. The point is, what can you do with that money? I mean, how much can you spend on cricket in India reasonably? So I think their last expenditure was somewhere in the ballpark of about 1,600. Okay, so let's say that you do a great job, you spend a lot more. Okay, how much can you spend at the end of the day? And what is the purpose of the BCCI? Like if it was a company, I would buy shares and I would be like a super supportive shareholder. I'll be like, come on, keep going. Fight, get more money. Why only 38%?
But
get 50%.
Help me understand where is money coming from?
So
one just point, Prashant, they can start by upgrading the stadiums in India.
No, so I'm saying that how much will you spend, right? Like, so my point is that you got a surplus running into thousands of crores. Right? There is a limit to how much you can spend on this. The BCCI should not exist to make money. It's not a corporation, right? There is no shareholder whose value has to be maximized. There is a limit to how much you can spend. And I'm not suggesting that they're misappropriating money. Money is spent, and we can see that it is being spent, that facilities have been upgraded in smaller towns. We can see that scouting programs are more efficient. We can see where the money is being spent. But the point is that there is only so much that you can.
Yeah. No, 1 second. So just to understand the balance sheet, where is the money coming in from for the BCCI?
Yeah, so this is basically, I think, international broadcast deals, right? So
okay.
So international, where the ICC
So if
gets
India plays in England, then like India BCCI gets a part of the broadcast money that let's say
from that
spends.
Sky Sports would have paid to
correct.
for the tournament.
There was a piece by Swaroop Swaminathan, the journalist. He kind of on Twitter had a extract from an article by Andrew Nixon, who writes for Cricket Europe. So he said the issue with all the arguments about BCCI cornering a bulk of the money, etc. And I'm going to quote just 2 lines from his article. He says, the main problem with the arguments is that the BCCI didn't contribute a single penny towards this. The bulk of the ICC's revenue comes from the money Star Sports pays for the Indian broadcast right to ICC events. This isn't a redistribution of BCCI as well, but a distribution of the money the ICC receives for broadcasting the events. Nobody is taking money out of BCCI's coffers.
Exactly.
Given that Star Sports is ultimately owned by Disney, you would even be hard pressed to make the argument that this is even taking money out of India.
Yeah. No, but the key point there being Indian cricket team, right, which is practically BCCI's cricket team. So, like the way the contract is structured is such that if Indian cricket team needs
to be fair, Tony, the Star Sport is not paying this just to watch India play with themselves, right?
No,
so if
exactly.
the rest of the world plays poor quality of cricket, the value of the rights will drop.
Exactly.
No, I think we are all on the same side of this argument, right? But the other point being that when you talk about scouting, etc., Prashant, all of that happens through mostly through IPL teams now, right? And like BCCI doesn't have to spend anything on it, like SRH or Mumbai Indians or whoever. Nehal Vadera, for instance, is yet to play a first-class match. I feel like he's jumped the queue several notches to make a beeline for whatever the Indian team will be in the future. Right?
No, that's fair, but I don't think anyone can deny the fact that the quality of facilities available in smaller towns has improved the last 10 years or so. I don't think anyone would argue.
You're talking about training facilities or stadia?
Yeah, I'm talking. No, I'm not talking about for the spectator. Okay, the spectator is still pretty sad everywhere. But I'm talking about the standard of facilities available for cricketers. The standard of coaching or the proliferation of good coaches across the country is definitely better now.
So help us understand that. I mean, I honestly don't know. So the BCCI gives money to local state associations. How does it work?
Sure.
Go ahead, Prashant.
No, so I mean, there is obviously money that is being disbursed by BCCI to local state associations. Local state associations have their own revenue streams as well, in addition to that. But I'm saying that they've made, with the deal with Jio and with Star for the IPL, they're making something like almost 5,000 crores from the IPL every year. And all their expenses across the length and breadth of the country is like maybe 1,500 or 1,600. I mean, that's a report I read somewhere. Not sure exactly how accurate it is because you don't find this information on the BCCI website.
I'm surprised.
So I mean, at conservative estimates, this is an organization that is not paying taxes because it is supposed to be a charitable organization, and they are worth somewhere in the ballpark of 15 to 20,000 crores. Okay, so that's an insane amount of money, and that money is making more money. I mean, that's obviously being invested, and they're getting interest and so on. So, to pick up on what Addy said, if they are representing the Indian viewer is not interested in watching India play a weak West Indies or a weak South Africa or a weak Sri Lanka, or in Pakistan is a whole other story. But the point is that they should be representing the Indian fan and not behave like they're a corporation that is about making money. And the Indian fan wants to see better quality of world cricket. I think that's reasonable. It's a reasonable statement to make.
Just to add on to it, right? One other point is how there are these feeder leagues, right? Like TNPL, KPL, and all of these that just form like scouting this one, right? like Abhinav Manohar being picked by Gujarat Titans because of his stellar performance in the Karnataka Premier League. TNPL to just like a feeder for CSK, right? Like now KKR is slowly woken up to it. There are some KKR scouts who are around TNPL, but most TNPL people who perform well by default go into CSK. But having said all of that, it's still like I don't know if I think the right place would be the fan center, right? Like, I mean, even today, the fact that you're in a major big city and tickets for the game, which is supposed to be could supposedly be Dhoni's second last appearance in Chennai, right, in the IPL, and tickets were sold out. Tickets weren't available. In fact, there was a tweet yesterday from someone who was traveling from West Bengal on a train, and they said that they had no tickets, they had no way to buy it, but somehow the tickets were arranged for them, right? And even seen a couple of YouTube videos where supposedly premium tickets, like 4,000 rupees worth tickets, didn't even have shelter in Kotla, right? Like, I mean, you can spend gazillions and millions of ads for Pan Bahar, but you cannot give decent shelters, right? And it's just crazy. I mean, you need to keep the fan at the center of your establishment. We've just been crying for it. A lot of us have lost money and burnt money. I mean, the whole Dharamshala indoor thing, right? I mean, it's just crazy. And remember, this is a World Cup year, and the World Cup's gonna happen probably in October, November, and we are in May, and fixtures were not being announced. The last time in 2011, the World Cup, by the time it happened, 6 to 8 months before the tickets went live, and people who are going for games had tickets. It's just sheer the disconnect is just bad.
It's
Yeah,
high-handed.
And the worst part is,
No,
I want to make this as a running thread again in this week. Supposedly, Dhoni's swan song Chepauk is still 80% occupied only.
Hey,
And yet you
Dhoni's one
cannot.
song and all another 5-6 years is there. Don't worry about that.
No,
but like
I think.
yeah.
Sorry, Tony. Just one. The other thing is that, see, this 1,900 crores is. I mean, you're as it is not able to spend the money that you're raising on your own. You're getting this 1,900 crores from the ICC. It is going straight into your reserves, right? Now, ask yourself, this money, where could it be? How much more needed it is in other countries, right? How much more desperately they. I mean, for a while, South Africa was in a crisis. I mean, their board was on the verge of bankruptcy. And this is South Africa. You're talking about a country with a very rich cricket heritage, which it's an important country. It has fans across the world. You have the West Indies, which is never well off. Sri Lanka was going through a period of crisis for a while. So the mandate to these bodies should be to keep the game healthy in all the countries where it is being played, and B, spread it to other countries, right? And this is another issue, right? I mean, Tariq could probably explain this a lot better than me, but when you've got here a BCCI behaving like a corporation, they're doing exactly what a corporation does when they have a monopoly, which is to corner the market and take up prices. They're not necessarily interested in growing the market because that would compromise their monopoly, right? And that's exactly what's happening here. This game should be. Yeah, sorry.
So the twin tensions that exist, right, across, like, forget cricket. Sorry if this is like global gyan or like absolute nonsense, but like it is that at a personal level, we all want to be capitalists, right? When we talk about individual cricketers like Trent Bolt, yeah, he's got only a few years to maximize his potential. Let him earn as much as he can. Let him go across the world. And then when you come to organizations, you're suddenly saying that they need to be acting like socialists, right? I don't have a problem with that. Of course you are. Wait,
sorry.
as BCCI, if I am a corporation and you're sort of saying,
but you're not,
like, maximizing my revenue is my.
No, but you're not a corporation. You're not a corporation, no? Are you a corporation?
What are you? No,
exactly.
why,
No,
why
so
should
hang on.
Trent Bolt maximize his revenue and not play to the country?
So hang on. The BCCI is not a corporation in the sense that it does not have share. It is supposed to be a
It
charitable.
doesn't pay taxes. Yeah, fine. Yeah.
It is a charitable association. Okay.
No,
Now,
what according to you, what is BCCI optimizing for as per their charter?
Sorry, what are they optimizing?
Yeah, like a company is at the end of the day, like you said, responsible for their shareholders, and they're therefore maximizing profit while also giving the airs that they're like protecting the world, saving it, and all of that bullshit because they've got a PR machinery. But at the end of the day, they're maximizing profit, right? You're saying the BCCI is situated slightly differently in the fact that they're not a corporation, they don't pay tax, they're supposed to act as probably like healthcare in India, where like Busy can talk for 50 minutes about this, that you can't find an appointment in London like with like state welfare healthcare for 8 months, even if you have a bleeding hand which needs 7 stitches. As opposed to in India, you can walk into any hospital at any point in time, right? Like very easily, and like kudos, like proud to be in a country that allows for healthcare at the time when it is required. Yeah. No, but the question is like, where is BCCI situated? Like, and therefore, like, where do the incentives need to change, and what should we do better?
So I think so. Before this podcast, I was looking up how it works in the NFL, right? Where the money is even crazier. Now the NFL is very different because every team there is a corporation, right? It is a profit making.
So the analogy there is NFL to IPL, right? Like every team is a corporation on its own.
Correct.
Ambani spends money, Adani spends money, whoever the fuck wants to own a team spends money, right? Like it's outside of the BCCI. Like the NFL in of itself is not acting like a socialist body in like whatever format.
Correct. Yeah. So and incidentally, the NFL is registered as an association of trade. Okay, and they do pay taxes. Okay. So honestly, I don't think that the idea of countries getting money in any way related to what they bring in at the ICC level makes any sense at all. Okay, I mean, I'm the last person to grudge the BCCI the money it's making off the IPL. Good for them, happy for them. Okay. But what I'm saying that when the ICC gets money, it's money to grow the game. It's not that BCCI has brought in X money, therefore BCCI is already well on its way. I mean, they've got their established revenue streams, they've got a large fan base, and the country is in a reasonable shape. I mean, cricket will be fine in India. I don't think that you should even be thinking about who's bringing in when you're trying to figure out who is getting your hand out.
No, that's exactly it's the joint family problem, right? You're sort of saying that the elder brother earns a lot of money or the elder sister earns a lot of money, and therefore like it should go to the family equally. And the elder sister is asking why, like, or the elder brother is asking why, like, why can't I buy a sedan instead of a hatchback? Because I'm bringing that amount of money.
No, so then you will reach Addy's scenario where you will have maybe just 2 or 3. I mean, you're already there. You will have 2 or 3 strong teams. Yeah, you'll have 2 or 3 strong teams who will play each other, and nobody will care about any of the other teams. And the jury is out there whether that's what the viewer wants to see.
Just on this point,
I just want to ask you, like, why you think that this is not a... I am a socialist at my heart, and I wish the world would embrace socialism. But Prashant, I want to ask you why you think that your model is not what you're advocating for. It's not a socialist model where you want like the... Yeah, it is. It should be. You're saying it should be.
No, I'm saying
it should be, but it isn't.
It should be, but it isn't. And my point is that I think that's what is stopping the game from progressing. I think that's why you're talking about a game which has, I think some people say that it is the second most loved game in the world or something like that, or the second most followed game in the world, or second or third most followed game in the world. And yet you restrict the game to just a handful of countries. It's ridiculous.
I'll just can I just interject here, because if you 2 things I wanted to say, right? One, if the game doesn't expand to other geographies, you don't get generational talents like, let's say, Rashid Khan.
Exactly.
You just don't see that sort of talent coming out from. What we will continue doing is churn out the usual so-called Khadus batsmen from the Bombay area, or line and length from wherever we generate it from within our respective top three nations, which is cricket, Australia, ECB, and India. The other thing also that I feel is that even
BCCI, not India.
oh my bad, so sorry. Yeah, India is not a corporation. Yeah. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to say is that how BCCI uses its funds is questionable at best, because I'm seeing evidence of where ECB takes its surplus funds, like to what level. There is some North Devon Cricket League which plays a handful of 20 games between spring and summer. It has one ultra tiny ground next to the beach, but it is a big deal for that small town.
Yeah.
Like all 1,000 folks turn up every weekend to watch people who are like, I think, 3 or 4 leagues below Sandy G's level. And I'm not joking about, but it's a huge deal. And it is sponsored entirely by the ECB. They honestly don't have to lift a finger apart from actually paying the guys who, come and manicure the lawns, or, roll the pitch, so on and so forth. And there are refreshments for random strangers like me to just walk along. You're like, yeah, come sit, watch the game with us. No big deal. Oh, you're from India. Oh, we like Ravi Chandran Ashwin, so on and so forth. But we don't do all that over here.
But the thing is, in the UK and same in Australia too, cricket is not the number one sport. So the ECB, Cricket Australia, makes a big effort because they have the alternate, soccer there, you have rugby and Australian rules football, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same audience, which is not captive. So they try and ensure that whatever money you're willing to pay for 2 games a year, you're paying it for a Big Bash game or for the Boxing Day Test match or the Sydney Test match. Whereas in India, they know that even if I give a stadium with no toilet, the punters will come in because
just one supplement to this, Adi, is that Vipul Sporty Baba, who's also on a pod, he goes for, and Tariq also goes for hockey tournaments in India. And like Odisha has, where BC is from, owns the sport entirely, and the fan experience is much superior. Like they actually give a fuck about it. So yeah, it's insane. So it's not. It's not even
the moment you actually think about it from a fan perspective or from a spectator perspective, you will do things different. And it is very obvious that you don't want to do that right now. Forget about the fans. Maybe you don't have to, but that's where I think I want to call into question, how are you behaving? Like Prashant is saying, are you going to behave like a corporation, or are you going to behave like a custodian of the game? So clarify that. I think it's very obvious that they are headed towards one direction, but at least start paying taxes then, if not anything else.
And I mean,
want to add to one point to Prashant's earlier point. So two of the sub criteria for allocation of this commercials. One is, of course, how much revenue is each board earning for ICC, and which is, there is stark difference between BCCI and other. Disney paid $3 billion for 4 years. And Osman did a big article on this. And the second one is, I think, Sky Sports, $260 million for 8 years. So that is the difference between the revenue. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the second sub-criteria is performance of men's and women's cricket team in these countries over the last probably 20-25 years. So then it becomes a vicious circle. You're not giving revenue.
You're not in terms of ICC trophies, Sandy.
Yeah.
I mean,
so you're not giving them opportunity to develop. They won't develop their cricket, and then you're measuring their performance for revenue allocation. Then it
the
becomes
rich
a vicious
get richer
circle.
and let the poor eat cake, basically. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the thing is that if this is spoken about more, there are enough reasons why the Indian cricket team should be the most hated cricket team in the world outside of its own fan base.
Of course it is, dude.
Okay.
Why
So
it is. Yeah. Mind you, it is.
And I think it is richly deserved, because you're essentially hoarding money, and where there are
we are the New England, basically.
Yeah.
Anyone but India.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Sorry, Prashant. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm expecting some anti-national ED raid in my house after this. But yeah.
But I think Osman also talks about how a few years back there was a talk of big three, like Australia, England, India taking up the
What
chunk
do you
of the
mean
revenue.
talk of? It is the
Where-
big three. That's it.
It is.
But now it's just, I mean,
It's just
Australia and
one.
England are
Yeah.
It's just big
nowhere
one.
near
Now
India.
it's big one.
In-
Yeah.
No, like you can't see at the end of the day, you need to show that you're beating England and Australia consistently, right? And I don't think it's a BCCI effect. It's just like captain and coach effect that Kohli and Shahs definitely wanted to win in Australia and England, and now we are close to where it seems like a 2-1 or a 3-2 or a 2-2 is possible. So that is good enough. Like you've already expanded like India Australia Test series to 5 matches now, and England was anyway 5 matches. So that is going to keep happening, and like the point being that countries like South Africa and New Zealand, which turns out great cricketers, or Sri Lanka for that matter, is not going to find a way in which the international calendar is sustainable enough because these players have much more choice, right? The Indian player is not going to be affected for the next 30 years because as long as the IPL happens and BCCI allows it, they'll make enough and more money, right? Like going back to Sunil Gavaskar's famous lament is that he never made enough money from the game, like when he was playing it, right? Now he's probably making more as a commentator.
Oh,
At
absolutely.
73
Not even
than when he
comparable.
played. Yeah, exactly.
So not
So
even
you are not going to
comparable.
get a lament from India, Australia, or English cricketers. It's going to be from South Africa and New Zealand cricketers for the next 10 years, after which cricket will just die out in New Zealand and South Africa. That's pretty much going to be it.
Yeah, New Zealand, I know you're smiling from inside, but
I know.
Yeah.
I love New Zealand cricketers, by the way, like Glenn Phillips.
yeah. Like you claimed last week.
No, but then my question becomes like the NBA never really considers anyone outside US as like basketball players, right? Or whatever other like franchise-driven sport. Like, what is this obsession for us that despite being a
no,
1.4
and that
billion
is when,
strong-
apart from that
Yeah.
dream team where the NBA guys came and thrashed everyone at the Olympics, they get thrashed at every Olympics. It's not
Yeah.
like they have a easy time, right? So there is a world of basketball outside USA,
No, but
which they don't want to acknowledge.
I will tell you why I brought up NBA, because NBA rules are different from like international basketball rules, right? Aren't they?
Yeah, they are different.
Yeah.
They are.
They are different.
They even
And
have a slightly different ball.
correct, and they get caught out in
Yeah.
international tournaments at that point of time. See, the thing is, you can continue to behave like you're in your own little
And the
island.
ref calls are much different, which
Yeah.
is basically what all of basketball is about. Is about what the
Exactly.
ref is willing to call.
No, you can.
Traveling
That's why.
versus
So,
not traveling.
as the NBA, you can continue to exist in your little island, but there is a world of basketball outside it, and there is a market for that as well. But ideally, you could have made space for it within your ecosystem, but you chose not to.
Yeah.
So-
So, I mean, what I'm basically saying is, as administrators, if you're looking at a successful model for sport, is going to be selfish American franchise sport, right? And like, why you sort of begrudging them to say suddenly they have to look at, sort of welfare for all.
No,
Like,
that's
if
bit-
you were
no, no.
put in that position, like you
NBA
would,
is a
you would act
corporation.
any differently.
No, NBA
No,
is a
we
corporation.
are saying they can look after their profits, but ICC, which is supposed to be an independent body, they have
Exactly.
to take care of all.
Exactly. So the point is,
It is
Tony,
very clearly not an independent body, right?
Yeah.
How
No,
can
but-
it be an independent body? It
No,
can't
but
be an
in
ICC
in
can't
theory,
exist
in
without
theory,
In theory,
in
yeah,
spirit,
It
at
cannot.
least.
It
Yeah.
literally cannot. Yeah.
No, I
It's
mean,
like- Yeah.
no, but
Sorry.
hang on, Tony. The parallel here is, if you were to consider, say, FIFA, right? I mean, one of the mandates for FIFA is to spread the game of football, is to ensure that where it is played, it is in health, right? I mean, and that
FIFA,
should be
very famously non-corrupt organization.
No.
with,
But I'm saying, I'm
non-corrupt
talking.
leaders at the top, where
No, but-
Qatar got the World Cup
Yeah.
purely out of merit.
Purely on
and
merit.
all of that. Yeah. Okay.
Because of the clemency of
The
climatic
beacon
conditions.
now.
Yeah. No, but jokes apart, when you're a global governing body, I mean, if growing the sport is not your mandate, then you shouldn't exist, honestly. I mean, it makes no
Then
sense.
you let individual countries work out their individual contracts. So why are you there in the middle?
Exactly.
No, so like as brother Tariq would say, is that you need to change the incentives then, right? The incentives
Exactly.
currently are like very, very skewed towards a capitalistic world and a capitalistic existence. It is not suddenly going to change for the ICC. I don't see. I mean, I'm entirely on the side for an equitable world and like everyone playing the sport, but just given the situation that we are in, like ex- expecting the ICC or the BCCI to act any differently is it's not going to happen
Let us
because
threaten
your
Jay Shah
incident
with
is very different.
let us threaten
Tony,
Jay
were
Shah
you
with 24 hours locked inside a room with KL Rahul if you don't improve the
Tony,
game.
when you said incentives, were you channeling another famous podcaster?
Hey! I didn't know he was popular in Australia as well. Yeah, but completely seen in the unseen, right?
You
Like,
see, when you do long runs, you need something more than our 1 hour podcast, Tony.
Adi is the one exception to the rule that in the long run we are all dead because he's also a famous marathoner. But in general, I mean, I don't think this is one of those like you can debate till the cows come home, but when the cows come home, they also want to like maximize capitalism, right? Which is literally what's happening in India right now, where Jay Shah, who doesn't know which end of the bat to hold, is like BCCI president for life till Amit Shah
Famously
ends
referred
up
to
going
by
out. Yeah.
Gideon Haig as Nepo baby.
Yeah, all of those things. So, I mean, I think all of these things are going to be distractions as much as like our heart bleeds for like New Zealand cricketers. It's not going to happen. It's just as simple as that. I genuinely think the only way to save cricket is for Test cricket to exist internationally and franchise cricket to be T20 and like ODS to be done away with. But that's just me.
Cool. Think we should close.
Thumbs up. Great.
No, you don't have. You agree that things should be the way it should be, but you're like, yeah, but there is no.
Long game
No,
around
we'll
it.
link that from the show notes. By the way, I found the source video.
Full lamenting is happening. He comes and gives gyan over here. Incentives don't align.
But I mean, see, so incentives not aligning. I think there have been taxes on rubber plantations also of late, right? Like, bat kara grip to
But wait, like biggest contribution of rubber to cricket is not pad grips, but MRF Base Foundation.
MRF Base Foundation. Yes.
And Ceat Tyre's strategic timeout.
Strategic timeout.
Which turns up at the most inopportune.
And the natural conclusion of this podcast.
I realized last time that people are debating about how fair play awards, like 10 games, multiple of 10 did not happen. How do people decide which over to decide? Try a strategic timeout. Does anybody know?
Also, do you know?
8, 15,
also,
9, 13. Yeah.
Also,
6 to 9 runs.
Oh, Sandy
also
knows some brains.
Oh, Sandy has theory. Tell. When does CS try?
No, who? I mean, Vici is asking when does that happen? I mean, is there a rule? So there is the rule, no? I mean,
yeah, there is
6 to 9 and 13 to 16.
13 to 16. Yeah.
Between
no,
6 to
that
9,
we know. Like, but when do you
that,
like? It's never strategic. It is always like
whenever
I mean, you're bored.
If you've been hit for 70 runs in 5 overs, after 6th over, you have to.
I don't know, but like there have been matches where like teams are begging, please don't take strategic timeout, and umpire like.
I remember the one instance where I think 3 runs were needed. Okay, and the team chasing almost got home in like the 15th over. 15.3, a wicket falls. 3 runs needed. Umpire is doing this absolute joke of a strategic timeout.
I was clapping only because this brings me to my favorite New Zealand cricket rant is that I think this is in 2015 when the World Cup was happening in Australia and also New Zealand, where one fucking useless stadium decided that they don't do the normal sort of orientation of north south.
Oh,
They
yeah,
did
yeah.
east west or something, and the match had to
Seddon
be
Park.
stopped for like 2 hours or
Seddon
something
Park.
because the sun was right in the
In
back
the
of the
face.
sky. I'm like, bro, please, if you're a country which wants to support cricket and like it's being given a World Cup, the bare minimum thing that you do is align your pitch correctly, right? Like, what is this shit? This is like us going to NIT Surathkal and like waking up early to see sunrise without realizing it is on the
You're on the
western
West
fucking
Coast.
coast.
Yeah, on the
Like,
West Coast.
see, and all the Chennai fuckers were like, why is the sun not coming in the sea? Like, bro, like, you're probably on the wrong coast. Like, something like that. Yeah.
Okay, I think you should close, man.
Okay.
Tony, go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think
Yeah,
we've
go for it,
reached
Connie.
the illogical conclusion of Bits and Pieces, episode 71, apparently, because again, we are earning millions of dollars thanks to all of you. But if you'd like to contribute to us getting a professional Zoom account without Nitin Sundar having to stitch 4 files together, please do get in touch with us. We are at BNP_cricket, I think, on Twitter. But wherever you're listening to this, please rate us 5 stars. And also, if you're one of the mummies walking in Chennai and supporting us, you should know that we don't have as many listeners as the quality of this podcast suggests. So please refer it to all your friends, even if you're not a Chennai mummy. I mean, I don't know, whatever, wherever you are, refer this podcast to another friend. If you can double the listenership of this podcast in the next 7 days, we are really grateful. This is Tony, Bissy, Prashant, Adi, Sandy, and Samir signing off from episode 71 of Bits and Pieces. Thank you so much. Bye.
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 Bye. Bye.